Do you ever wonder what drives the mind of a police officer? What drives one to become a police officer? I discovered this story this morning. You know how YouTube randomly puts things up on your page? And he describes the attitudes of officers. And this man's story may give you insight to the unfortunate incidents that have been occurring to us, and especially the vivid graphic display of the demise of George Floyd. Because as we recall, a couple of the officers who were with the defendant who actually was the one that caused George Floyd's demise, they were rookie cops. And as we go along in the story of what this young man describes, because he quit the academy, he will tell you that for the first year, they have no voice. They are on probation. It's like being in an at-will state, because this is what Florida is. If your boss doesn't like you, your boss doesn't have to tell you the reason why they're letting you go. Now, this story, this gentleman is talking about in Baltimore, but this just gives you a wider net of what these cops are going through. Now, I'm not defending them by no means, but this is another side of the story that their lawyers present, the lawyers of the defendants, along with the cop that actually had his knee on George Floyd's neck. They don't have a voice. But yet, yes, they are human. They should, stop. They should have stopped them. But fear of losing your job. It's always about fear. That's what a job leaves you in fear. Fear that when you walk in that door, fear that your boss may not like you, fear that you may have even said something correctly that the boss didn't like, that put him in the wrong light, and next thing you know, your opportunities are few and far between. This young ex-officer describes the environment that they're training, how disgusting it is in there. And all you're supposed to do as you go with an experienced officer is watch and observe. You don't open your mouth, you don't say a thing, and whatever he says is right. So this is where it gives avenue for people who are already fearful, who are part of our police system. It increases their fear. So they're already fearful, increases tenfold because of what's being shown to them as they are being trained. So even if that fear was just about, hey, having to confront someone who is doing something illegal, what they do is plant the seeds of doubt that every person of color that these policemen encounter is an enemy, will kill you, no matter how little, how big, how small. They show you incidents of people of color over and over and over again, these police training films. And that's it. Now, as he goes along, also further on in this video, he also speaks about where after a while they transferred him to a white community. He couldn't meet his quota. I often say in jest that, that police have to meet their quota, especially around the holidays. That's why you see them out there increasingly, because they have to meet their quota for the end of the year. And it is about quotas. They are told, you need to get this many tickets written. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's data driven to justify why they need all this funding. It's manufactured. And this morning I heard about how crime has risen 157% in New York since we took away $1 billion of funding from the police. Where was this news before they did that? So you see how the media plays on you. The media plays you. Mainstream media plays you. Because the powers that be that own this media also work hand in hand with the government. So that, again, once again, fear, perpetration of fear, the fear factor, they push it on you. From the time they walked into those halls of policehood, they do that. So that when the injustices are done to people of color, to them it's justified because, hey, we know what you are capable of. But how could 12-year-old Tamir Rice have an opportunity to defend himself when as soon as that police officer walked out of his car, he just shot without prejudice, no regard to the young man's age, without actually looking to see, observing their surroundings. So their awareness is not there. When you walk in fear, you have no awareness of what is right, what is wrong. You watch on television these movies where they show, these targets popping up, and these spies are in training, these people are in training, knowing the difference between a civilian and a combatant, or a real gun and a fake gun. But yet, this young man can never fulfill his dreams because this officer, because of his training, they train on fear. All police training is fear-based. That's why there isn't any dialogue. They are trained to be fearful of the color of your skin, no matter what size what package you come in. So when they go into these other neighborhoods, like this one right here, he was bored. So he said, in order to meet his quota, he just go a town over and stop someone just for jaywalking. Stop someone just for flicking a cigarette, throwing garbage on the ground. Whereas in the other neighborhood he was just policing, he wouldn't have done that. It's about numbers. It's not about keeping the community safe. They want numbers, data. Police system is about data. Education is about data. Do you notice? Everything is about data, which is code. There's no human factor when you look at data. Analytics, analytics, analytics. Analytics drives capitalism. So when they say, yes, the economy is up, when they say that, yes, there are more jobs, the jobs that are available are not available to you and me because the education for them is not there. The 1% to 2% have the education for those jobs. But the majority of Americans do not, so that's why we will be staying in otherness without hope if we don't learn to fend for ourselves. The police do not care about you. They do not care about defending you from someone coming to your home illegally. Because when you report it, they apprehend you and the perpetrator walks away. Because the perpetrator looked like them. And to them, anyone who looks like them is always right. Gets more leeway. Gets to be heard. We do not get to be heard by them. Because they don't live in our communities. He just demonstrated that. He's supposed to be policing another district, but because he couldn't get his quota in that district, he comes over to a district where we live in. So then, once again, that area becomes over-policed. So you stop the same person over and over again, day after day, for what? For walking down the street. If you ask for your ID and you go to take your ID out, they pull their gun, shoot you, and say, "Oh, it looked like you had a gun." How does that make sense? The culture of fear is something that is ingrained, that has been there since the days of the first civil rights movement. In the movie Mississippi Burning, look at the original movie. Who ran the police department? They still do. The police department thread runs all the way back to the overseers. So how do you get rid of those things? Revamp the training. Those who have been in office for 30, 40 years, get them out. Get them out because they're set in their ways. Like 45 is set in his ways. Those old dogs don't want to learn new tricks. They're perfectly okay with pissing on us. To them, it is their right to piss on us. It is not their right. So when we talk about defunding the police, talk about reform, the way they are trained. That is where it begins. So once you start the training and keep doing the training, yes, it'll take time to weed out those bad individuals, but reinforce the training. Do not deviate from the new training standards. That way, you won't need a police that looks like it's ready for war in Afghanistan. We are living in a police state, whether we know it or not. A police state disguised as freedom. There is no freedom in this state unless we truly want this to be reformed. They do not care, as this young man is demonstrating. That's why he left. You can stand there on the corner of your street and they could say you're loitering. You could be in front of your house and say that you are trying to break in. You could be building, adding something to your property with the proper permit, and your neighbor will come and ask you, demand why you're doing this, that she's sure that you are not supposed to be doing this, and calls the police on you. All these things occur. Even though we're well educated, we understand what goes on. It does not matter what level of education that we have. We are all treated the same. So we walk in fear. But even though you walk in fear, do not let it stop you. Do not let it keep you from where you need to go for yourself, what you need to accomplish. Walking in the things that you want to do. Walking in just about all of the things that you're supposed to be doing for yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. Nobody else can take the place of you. So with that being said, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, guys? It's all up to you.